She gave up her seat to a tired dad and his daughter, not knowing he was a hidden billionaire who'd soon change her life. It was an early, foggy winter morning. Charlotte Airport was busy and chilly. Fog wrapped around the parking lot like a spirit, hiding car lights and making people with bags hard to see in the dark. Inside, bright lights flashed on glass walls. The sound of flight announcements filled the air, mixed with quiet complaints from people wearing warm scarves and coats. Angela stood by gate C12, leaning on a tall post. She held tightly to her old suitcase with both hands. Her blonde hair was under an old wool hat, and her coat sleeves were worn out from many cold seasons. Her eyes looked tired but strong. After a quick look at the flight screen, she got out her phone and called a number she knew well. "I'm going to New York by plane this morning," she said quietly, holding the phone close to her ear. "If the job talk goes well, it might be a fresh start for me." There was a short, quiet moment on the other end, then a woman's voice answered, sounding soft and worried. "Are you certain about this, dear? After all that's happened, the school shutting down, all those times you were turned down?" Angela closed her eyes. The heavy feeling of the last 6 months almost made her choke. She took a deep breath, steady but weak. "I must try, Mom," she whispered. "If I don't, I'll always think about what could have been. I just need to feel there's still a possibility." She hung up the phone before she could change her mind, putting it into her coat pocket. A tear ran down her face, and she quickly wiped it off, feeling bad about showing feelings, even though no one was watching. She looked at her plane ticket, JFK, Flight 719. Her fingers squeezed tighter around her suitcase handle. Then something happened. A sound cut through the air, loud, quick, and much more than just anger. It was a child's high-pitched, raw scream. It went through the airport noise like broken glass, making everyone close by suddenly turn. Angela quickly looked towards the sound, immediately awake. Her eyes searched through the many winter coats and rolling bags until she found where it came from. A man, young, perhaps around 35, with messy dark hair and a pale, tired face, stood at the standby counter. In his arms he held a small girl who seemed only 5 years old. The child's skin was very pale, her eyes were partly shut, and she was breathing weakly and not evenly. Her body shook a little with movements she couldn't control, tiny, scary shivers that made her father hold her tighter. The man's voice, though quiet, shook with a strong need. "Please," he begged the airport worker with deep despair in every word. "She needs a doctor in New York today. I will pay any amount, 3 times the price. Just please get us on that plane." The woman behind the counter shook her head. She looked serious and professional, but also clearly uneasy. "Sir, I understand, but this flight is completely full. Without a doctor's okay beforehand or official papers, we cannot make quick changes. I am sorry." The man's shoulders dropped down. His voice broke. "I drove all night. I have tried every airplane company. She might not live past the weekend." Angela's heart beat fast. The sounds of the airport grew faint. Her eyes stayed on the girl's weak body, on how her small hand lightly held her father's coat, her mouth a little open as she fought to breathe. She felt something move within her, something powerful and clear. "Oh my God," Angela whispered, almost too quiet to hear. Her hands loosened their hold on her suitcase handle. She did not check the clock. She did not look back at the gate screen. She took a step forward, then another. Angela walked towards them. Angela moved nearer to the man, her eyes always on the little girl in his arms. The child's skin was light, almost blue, and her eyelids gently shook. Her small chest moved up and down with weak, unsteady breaths, and her body trembled with signs of a coming fit. Angela's voice was soft, firm, but full of calm worry. "Is she all right? She truly does not look good." The man looked up, surprised by her being there, but too tired to hide how scared he was. His voice was tired from many hours of worry and hopelessness. "The doctor said it could be days, or even less. She has a very serious brain problem she was born with. There's a chance she could fall into a deep sleep without help. We are trying to get her to a special doctor in New York. I tried to rent a private plane, but the snowstorm stopped all planes. All regular flights were full. I drove all night hoping to find anything, something. I arrived here at 5 in the morning, just hoping someone would cancel their flight. Angela looked down at the plane ticket in her hand. Flight 719 to JFK. Her flight, her job talk, her only chance to begin again. She paused for only a moment, then looked back at the girl, so weak, so quiet. Her tiny hand weakly curved near her father's shirt collar. Something inside Angela changed. "I have a spot on that plane," she said quietly. The man blinked, not sure if he heard her correctly. "You do?" Angela nodded and smiled kindly. "You and your little girl need it more than I do." He looked at her, shocked. "Are you sure? I mean, are you truly fine with that? Missing your plane? That's not something most people would simply give away." Angela looked down at her old shoes, then back into his eyes. "I was going to New York for a job talk. I am a teacher, or I was. The school where I worked shut down, and I have been trying to get a job for months without success. This was finally a chance to get my life back in order." She stopped. "But I can try again. Your daughter does not get another chance at this." A deep quiet fell between them. Around them, the airport kept going with flight calls, rolling bags, and quiet talks. But in their small, messy spot, everything became still. The man held his daughter tighter and slowly nodded his head. It was a nod that showed thanks too huge to say. Angela turned to the person at the gate desk. "Please give my seat to him. Flight 719 to JFK." The worker, who had been watching them, nodded without speaking, her eyes shining. The man swallowed with difficulty, his voice breaking as he talked. I do not even know your name. You just saved my little girl's life." Angela smiled again, gentle but full of warmth. "Then go while she still has the chance." As the man got ready to get on the plane, Angela reached into her bag and took out a small wooden keychain shaped like an apple. It was smooth and plain, something she used to give her best students to remember her by. She bent down a little and put it in the child's shaking hand. "For you," she whispered, looking into the girl's unclear eyes. "Keep it with you. It is your good luck charm, all right?" The girl moved a little, her lips opening just enough to make a soft smile. Her fingers weakly closed around the apple. The man watched, his eyes wet. Slowly he reached down and took off the thin hospital band from around his daughter's wrist. He stepped closer and put it into Angela's hand. "It's just a plastic band," he said gently. "But for me, you deserve all the good things in this world." Angela looked at it, the small white strip with faint writing, and closed her fingers around it. He nodded one more time, then turned and walked towards the gate with his daughter in his arms. Angela stood by herself, watching them vanish into the people. The hospital band lay in her hand, feeling light yet strangely heavy, as if it held not just a child's name, but also a part of something much bigger, something that had just silently changed her life's path. The morning sun had finally shone through the gray sky by the time Angela got on the city bus. The seats felt cold, and the windows were steamy from people's warm breath in the winter air. She slipped into a seat near the back, gently pressed her head against the window, and pulled her coat tighter around herself. In her hand, held tightly like a rescue line, was the small plastic hospital band. The name on it was slowly disappearing, but its feel in her hand seemed very true. Outside, the streets of Charlotte passed quickly, showing concrete, early travelers, and quiet trees with no leaves. The bus made a soft noise and moved suddenly forward at each stop, its movement calming but not gentle. Angela sat still, her eyes looking far away. Her thoughts were louder than the soft sound of the bus engine. She thought about her classroom, sunlight coming through dusty window covers, children's happy sounds, and messy art stuck to the walls. She saw her students' faces, their bright eyes, how they used to yell her name when she entered. "Mrs. Angela!" They had trusted her, and she had trusted herself before. She remembered the day the school shut down, how the workers had gathered in the eating area. The principal's voice was sad as he read the last news. The money cuts, the quiet that followed, and then the long, hard months after that. Being turned down again and again, her money slowly disappearing, the quiet sound of her own voice in her apartment where no one replied. A tear ran down her face. She quickly wiped it, hoping no one saw. A soft tap on her shoulder made her turn. An old woman, perhaps 70 years old, sat a few rows away. She looked kind and understanding. Without speaking, she reached into her purse and took out a small pack of tissues, offering one to Angela. Angela paused, then took it with a quiet, "Thank you." The woman gave a small smile and looked away, as if being kind didn't need any words. Angela turned back to the window, holding the tissue in one hand and the band in the other. She held both to her chest for a moment, breathing in slowly. The bus trip felt longer than it should have. When it finally got to her stop, she stepped off into the cold again. The wind blew sharply across her face as she walked the last few blocks to her apartment, each step feeling heavier than the one before. Her building was silent. She went up the narrow stairs to the second floor and opened the door to her apartment. The room was calm. The heater had not turned on yet, and the air inside was colder than she remembered. Angela put her bag down by the door, took off her scarf, and stood for a moment, looking around. There wasn't much furniture, and the lights were low. On the small kitchen table was one envelope, white, new, and not opened. She felt a lump in her throat. She walked over slowly, took out the letter, and opened it with shaking hands. It was the invitation for the job talk, the one from New York, the one she had wished for, kept hope for through nights of worry. She read the first few lines, then put the paper down. Her fingers squeezed hard, then loosened. She tore the paper in half, neatly and exactly. One half fell to the floor like a soft feather. She did not shout. She did not fall down. Instead, she slid down the wall and sat on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest, the hospital band still held tight in her hand. Her eyes looked straight ahead, not seeing clearly, but full of something more than just sadness, something like giving up, but not exactly. It was sorrow, yes, but also a strange calm. The tears came slowly this time, making quiet lines down her cheeks. She had given something away. She had missed an opportunity, but somehow, deep inside, she knew she had done the correct thing. Even if no one else saw it, even if nothing came from it, she leaned her head against the wall and closed her eyes, the cold coming through the floor under her. The warm feeling of that little girl's hand still stayed in her mind. 3 days later, the morning light came gently through the window covers of Angela's small apartment. The heater made a soft noise in the corner, barely making the air warm. She sat at the edge of her kitchen table, slowly eating a piece of dry toast, the very last slice of bread she had. Her coffee cup was empty, now holding only slightly warm water. The quiet of the apartment surrounded her like another layer of clothes. She looked at the wall, deep in thought. The torn half of the job letter still lay where she had left it on the floor. The hospital band sat next to it, not moved since that day. A sign of a life saved, a memory of a chance that was missed. Then someone knocked at the door. It was gentle, but clear, and totally surprising. Angela froze. For a moment she just stared at the door, not sure if she had just thought it. Then it happened again, 2 quick taps, on purpose. Carefully, she stood up and walked across the room, every step making a sound on the wood floor. Her hand stopped just above the doorknob. She turned it slowly. Standing in the hall was Mark. He looked different in the bright day, less worried, more calm. His dark hair was combed nicely, his coat was buttoned, his shoes were shiny. In one hand, he held a small bunch of wild flowers, in the other, a closed envelope. Angela blinked, very surprised. How did you find me?" Mark gave a gentle smile. "It was not difficult. I remembered your name from when the ticket was changed. I found you using the school system's records." Angela looked at the flowers, then back at him. "Why are you here?" Mark stepped a little closer, but still showed respect for the doorframe. "Because I could not just let what you did go without a thank you. After I got on that plane, after we arrived and Linda was taken to the hospital, I could not stop thinking about you." Angela said nothing. Her face showed no feelings. Mark went on, his voice softer now. "You gave up something that was very important to you, for someone you had never seen, and you did it right away without thinking." Angela looked down. It felt like the correct thing to do. Mark nodded slowly. "And it was. You did not just help my daughter. You made me remember that there are people in this world who still act with goodness." He held out the envelope to her. Angela took it gently, her fingers touching his for a very short time. She opened it and pulled out a letter. Thick, official paper with a design she did not know at first. Then she read the words at the top. Lighthouse Learning. Her eyebrows creased. What is this? Mark took a breath. I started a group that runs schools for free. We manage special schools for kids with autism and other growth needs. We just opened a new school right here in Charlotte. I was actually visiting other school sites when Linda got sick. Angela's mouth opened a little. You manage schools? I do, Mark said, his eyes calm. And we need teachers. Not just any person, but the type of teacher who sees children for who they truly are, not just what their grades show. The type who gives their all, even when no one is looking. Angela blinked, still holding the letter. You want me to teach at your school? I want you to teach, he said softly. In the room that is ready for someone just like you. Angela looked away, feelings coming up fast. I don't even know if I am still good at it. It has been months, and the last few years, they were not simple. Mark stepped closer, his voice quiet but sure. I saw you give up a big hope for another person's child. That tells me more than any work paper ever could. Our students need someone who leads with kindness, and I believe you are exactly who they require. She looked at him, caught between not believing and a small, weak spark of hope starting again inside her. Angela looked back at the letter, then at Mark. Why me? Mark smiled again, not feeling sorry, but with quiet respect. Because when no one else acted, you did. And for the first time in many days, Angela felt something different from sadness. She felt a chance. Angela stood at the front of the small classroom, her hands resting gently on the teacher's table as she looked at the 12 children sitting in front of her. Each child was unique, living in their own quiet space. Some rocked softly, others looked away from her, and not one child answered when she said their name. It was her first day at Lighthouse Learning, and the quiet felt strong. But Angela did not let it bother her. She started with a story. Her voice was peaceful as she read from a homemade book about a small fox who found bravery in a bad storm. She showed colorful pictures she had drawn late at night. Most children did not look at her, but she saw a few small changes. Tiny fingers tapping to her pace. One girl slowly blinking, listening. It was a beginning. In the days that came after, she tried everything. Games to match colors, soft music with bells and drums, painting with fingers on special paper. She quickly found out what made the children calm and what made them upset. There was Mia, a little girl who cried every morning when she was dropped off. On the third day, Angela bent down next to her and gently started telling a story. Mia stopped crying loudly. She sat, she listened, she smiled. One afternoon, a mother came to Angela, her eyes wet. "My daughter hugged you," she whispered. "That has never happened. Thank you." Angela nodded, feeling full of emotion. She took those small times home with her like precious things. Mark had been watching from the hall. At first, he stayed far away, but slowly he joined in, helping with story time, giving out things, even folding paper boats with the children. He did not get in the way. He helped, always watching how Angela acted with calm and purpose. One day, while making a classroom board about dreams, they sat next to each other, cutting colorful paper into shapes like boat sails. The children had drawn pictures of what they wished to become: space travelers, painters, cooks. A small boy looked up and asked, "Are you two friends?" Angela stopped, surprised. Mark laughed softly. "Very special friends," he said kindly. Angela laughed too, pushing hair behind her ear, but her heart beat fast. She felt his words were true. Late one evening, Angela stayed late, working under the noisy lights of the empty building. She did not hear Mark until he put a cup of tea next to her. "You should get some rest," he said. "You have done enough work." Angela did not look up. "I like to stay. It reminds me that I saw her again." He sat across from her, quiet for a moment, then spoke gently. "I lost my wife when Linda was 2 years old. She was the strong one, especially with children. These schools are to remember her." Angela's eyes looked into his. "I am sorry." Mark nodded. "It is fine. This place helps me remember who she was and who I wish to become." Angela told her own story, The school that shut down, the letters turning her down, the fear she had lost her best qualities. Mark did not say common phrases. He just looked at her softly. You did not lose it. You just needed the correct place for it to show. Their quiet felt warm, not sad. Something had changed between them. Some weeks later, the workers met in the library. Mark stood at the front, holding a folder. We have all seen the good changes happening in room 4, he said. The faith, the kindness, the big steps forward. And it is time we see what that kind of guiding means. He turned to Angela. This school needs a head teacher with a kind heart like yours, someone who guides with deep caring. Angela froze. Me? He smiled. You have been guiding us from the beginning. Tears filled her eyes as she walked forward, taking the folder with shaking hands. After the meeting, Mark found her in the hall. He took a small notebook from his coat pocket. The front cover said, "Lead with kindness." I have had this for some time, he said. I was waiting for the correct person. Angela opened the notebook and smiled, her heart full. For the first time in many years, she felt truly noticed, not for what she had given up, but for all the good she had to offer. It was late in the afternoon, the type of day that colored the sky soft gold and gentle pink. Angela was in her office putting student drawings into a folder named Dream Wall when she heard a soft knock. She walked to the door and opened it, and there they stood. Mark was there with his hands in his coat pockets, and next to him was a small girl with bright eyes and red cheeks, Linda. Angela's breath stopped. The child looked so unlike the weak, shaking person she remembered at the airport. Her hair had become longer, falling in soft curves around her shoulders. Her cheeks were full of energy, her step sure, and when she saw Angela, she ran forward right away. "Miss Angela!" Angela bent down just in time to grab Linda as she ran quickly into the room. The little girl threw her arms around Angela's middle in a strong hug. Angela laughed, putting her arms around her. "Well, someone has a lot of energy this morning," she said. Linda smiled widely up at her. "We finished reading early and Daddy said I could come say hello." Just then, Mark showed up in the doorway, holding a paper cup with steam coming from its top. "Your regular coffee," he said, giving the coffee with a smile. Angela took it, their fingers touching slightly. For a moment they stood in easy quiet, watching Linda hop back into the hall. "You look like you are exactly where you are supposed to be," Mark said softly. Angela nodded. "For the first time in a long period, I feel like I am." Weeks went by. The air became cool and fresh, and yellow leaves blew across the school playground. One afternoon, Mark came to Angela with a questioning spark in his eye. "Will you meet me in the library after school?" he asked. "There is something I want to show you." Angela said yes, not thinking much about it until she walked into the library later that day and took a sharp breath. Sparkly lights hung from the roof beams. Paper lamps shone softly from the shelves. A line of small candles led towards the reading corner where students stood holding signs they made that said, "Will you marry our head teacher?" Angela put her hands to her mouth, completely surprised. Mark stepped forward from behind the children. He was feeling anxious, but his eyes showed only love. "You gave my daughter a chance to live," he said slowly. "You gave my school hope and my students someone to trust. And you gave me the part of my heart I did not think I would ever feel again." He got down on one knee, opened a small soft box, and inside was a simple, lovely ring. "Angela Moore, will you be my wife?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. Her voice got stuck between laughing and crying. "Yes!" The wedding was small, but just right. Held in the schoolyard under the old oak tree, the event was full of flowers made by the children, tied together with ribbons and carefulness. Linda wore a white dress and held a bunch of cloth roses. She stood proudly as the happiest little flower girl in the world. Angela walked down the path, not with big music or fancy talks, but to the sound of children's happy noises and the soft feeling of a life that had been changed by simple goodness. As the sun went down behind the trees, Mark and Angela stood holding hands with Linda between them, her small fingers wrapped around theirs. They looked out at their students, their school, their home, and they knew everything had started with one quiet act of caring. One choice, one seat, and a heart brave enough to give it up. One single kind act might not change the whole world, but it can change a person's entire life. And sometimes it changes your life too. Thank you for seeing this warm story of caring, strength, and surprising love. Angela's story shows us that sometimes the very smallest acts of kindness can lead to the most amazing results, and that letting go of something today might just open the door to everything you were meant to have in the future. If this story made you feel something, we ask you to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more real, heartfelt, and hopeful tales that lift your spirits and make us remember the good in people. Do not forget to like, share, and leave us a comment about the part that touched you the most. Until next time, keep trusting in kindness, keep trusting in each other, and remember, your story might just be the one that changes someone's life. Subscribe now to our channel